The CIA, if the people in Turkey aren't aware that going back now decades, the coups that occurred in Turkey, the politics that are taking place, the political climate has always been controlled by the CIA, and it presently is. When you see right now, even what's taking place in Syria, it's all instigated by the CIA, and it's all concerns the vast resources around the Caspian Sea. We want those resources. We don't want those resources to go to China. We don't want them to go to Russia. We want the resources. And that's why Syria, if you're creating a pipeline going from the Caspian Sea, the basin of the Caspian Sea, is of course Iran. And it's going from Iran, this pipeline, through northern Iraq into Syria. That's why Syria is so strategic. Care less about Turkey. They're concerned about the economics, about the money. And it's right there at the basin of the Caspian Sea. And as long as the money is there and we can use Turkey, we will. We will conduct more coups. We will create more political turmoil. We will do everything that's necessary to get those resources, because with those resources comes control of the world order. And that's what, as you know, that's what it's all about. Well, you got to realize that through his schools, he's spreading his ideology, and his ideology, he calls it, as you know, like he's setting up these, he calls them points of light throughout Central Asia and throughout the United States and throughout, let's face it, his schools are in Europe as well. And through these schools, he's indoctrinating students into his movement, into his ideology. And once you control hundreds and hundreds of thousands of students, you're controlling a great political force. And in order to eradicate that force, you have to really shut down every school he has throughout Central Asia. Sure. Well, you got to realize that the CIA, or the money that the CIA gets for covert operations is not allocated by Congress or the Senate. It's not in the U.S. budget. The money for covert activities has always come, going back to 1947, from the drug trade. We have been heavily involved, the CIA, in the drug trade for decades. That's what brought us into Vietnam. That's what brought us into Afghanistan. That's what's bringing us now into Mexico. We control the heroin trade. And from that heroin trade, we have been able to fund the Gulen Movement and the Gulen schools. And once again, Gulen has only been a proxy for the CIA, and it's only to further an economic end. But all of the money for the CIA, this has been documented for. As a matter of fact, even in Senate hearings here in the United States, the church hearings, the Kerry Commission hearings that were conducted here, it all came out that the CIA had established banks throughout the world to launder drug money, banks in Australia, banks in Pakistan, banks in Miami. They've even used the Vatican Bank to launder the money. But the CIA, all the money for black ops, for the way that they can mount coups in Turkey and false flag attacks in Italy and control the governments in Latin America, all has come from the drug trade. Yeah. And Gulen is part of that. Where do you think that $50 billion, you're talking about one of the richest men in the world. Gulen has a third-grade education. He's a backwoods religious leader of no substance at all. He's never really written a book of his own. He's never written an article of his own. I mean, the guy is a complete puppet for the CIA. Without them, he's nothing. Well, you know, people in the United States, if you say Sicerlik or you say Shotley, or you say these names, even if you say Gulen, most people in the United States won't know who you're talking about. These things are lost to them entirely. But Sisterlick, as you know, revealed a great deal. It revealed we have controlled your intelligence agency for years. It was set up by the CIA. It was set up by the CIA. We controlled every bit of intelligence that was conducted in Turkey. I was probably one of the only people in the United States who actually trespassed on Gulen's property. I wasn't invited there. I trespassed with a cameraman. And I know what's going on in his complex, and nobody else, I don't think, has filmed it or shot it or been there. I've been there. I know what's up there. His compound, once again, is on about 40 acres in a very remote area of Pennsylvania. He lives in a chalet, in the third floor of a chalet. You cannot get on that property because you have to really go through the woods, because there's sentry posts guarding every entranceway into the property. I went through the woods with a colleague of mine. On his site there, you have a great deal of young Turks who are brought in from Turkey, mostly on student visas. They're trained. They're almost like a Turkish army on American soil. At that compound, there's a firing range. There's a helicopter that circles that area all the time, looking for people like me who might trespass on his property. But I have trespassed on his property. I was brought into one of his sentry posts, and I was questioned. But I pretty much know what's going on there. I mean, the neighbors who live there have spoken to me about the gunfire that erupts there continuously, about the helicopter that's always circling the place, about the way that it's in any other city or any other place in the United States, this would not be tolerated. But the fact that it is tolerated shows that he is protected. And once again, further proof that he is protected is when the FBI tried to deport him. And the Homeland Security here, because they realized how dangerous he is, tried to deport him. But any attempt to deport him was thwarted, was stopped by the CIA, by Graham Fuller, who showed up at his hearing, by Morton Abramovitz and Mark Grossman and all these other people who showed up saying how wonderful Gulen is and what a wonderful asset he is to the United States. He's not an asset at all. The guy can't even speak English. He is a complete goon. But once again, he serves their purpose.